Good people, what is going on? Another episode of the All Go Podcast. I'm your host, Desmond. Thank you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Today, want to talk about the Alabama football. I'm not even sure I can call it a meltdown, but the game that they had last Saturday. Before I get into it, want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Hope you have a great holiday. Hope you eat good. Hope you enjoy time with friends, family, all that good stuff. Um, but yeah, I am hesitant with calling the Alabama Oklahoma game a meltdown because to me, a meltdown is when you start to play well and then things just kind of slowly or quickly just unravel and go poorly, where now you look at it like, man, we had a shot to win that and we just didn't execute at the end of the game or in crucial situations. Alabama didn't. I mean, I hesitate to say it, but it's probably true. They didn't show up for that game, and I do want to make sure I give credit to Oklahoma because they came out. I thought Oklahoma played really well. They executed well, just more intensity. And Alabama, that was rough. That was bad. Really, from top to bottom, I thought the play calling left so much to be desired, and just the execution wasn't great. I mean, there was a time, I want to say in the second quarter, where the game's going on and you're seeing Milroe can't really get anything going, with his legs. And I checked just the stats, and at that point in time, Jalen Milroe had 9 carries for -2 yards, and then the two running backs were getting 5 yards a carry and 6 yards a carry, respectively. And it just they never really committed to the run game. And Jalen Milroe is a dynamic runner of the football. He's got a great deep ball, like things we all understand and all know. But what I don't understand is just the lack of ability to pivot. Like, obviously, you want the ball in Jalen Milroe's hands, and you want to have him because he's dynamic, with the football. So I do understand that aspect of it. But if the other team is just doing a great job of keeping him corralled, and he's just not making good decisions on those, whether it's a zone read or whatever the case may be, RPO, if he's not making good decisions, then you've got to shift and now go to more a traditional run game. And I'm not saying you have to get under center and do things you haven't done before. You can keep your shotgun and those types of things, but just instead of it being an RPO or being a Jalen read it type of deal, he's not seeing it well and he's not making good decisions with that zone read. So just call it a run play. Just hand it to the running back. You've got really good running backs, and I think the O-line does a pretty good job of moving the defense when they need to. So it's just kind of mind-blowing that the inability to make any adjustment when you don't have your fastball for the Alabama offense. And also too, for one of the most embarrassing things in that game was on that Jalen Milroe pick six, where he doesn't try to tackle the defender. Instead, he tries to leg whip trip the guy, which I don't understand at all. Number one, it's just flatly embarrassing. I'm actually surprised more people haven't talked about that play because that is embarrassing. That and I don't want to try to go and attack Jalen Milroe's character. He seems to be an upstanding dude. I'm not anywhere close to the program or anything like that. So he seems to be an upstanding dude, a great leader, all that. But that play is about as bad as it gets. It's one thing to throw a pretty poor interception, which he did do that. Then it's another thing to not give the effort that you need to get this guy on the ground. Because, I mean, I will say, even if you got him out of bounds, Oklahoma was probably going to score anyway because Alabama just could not get anything going. But it's on you to do everything you can to help your team. At that point, helping your team was getting that guy out of bounds, pushing him out of bounds, so that the defense can come out and play defense. Because guess what? They're better at playing defense than you are. And also, too, let's say he does connect with the leg whip. Now, it's probably a very low percentage, but it's not zero. You could break your leg doing something like that. I mean, a guy is running full speed and you just throw your leg out there to trip him or whatever the case. Like, you just never know. Like, contusion, bone bruise, like, though anything can happen when you do something just like mind blowing like that. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But kudos to Oklahoma. That was a major league butt whooping that they gave Alabama. Last thing, one of the last things I'll say is I know with Kalen DeBoer, it's been up and down. Let's put it that way. They've had a terrific season, so I'm not saying that he's out here with a losing record or anything like that. He's done a pretty good job. He was hired at a very difficult spot in a very difficult moment because he had, number one, when Nick Saban announces his retirement and he retires, now because Alabama is getting a new head coach, the portal window is open. So any of their players can get in the portal, even outside of the transfer portal window. So this is a unique portal window because you have a head coaching change where teams can contact your players and it's kind of open season on your guys. Even with Alabama hiring Kalen DeBoer relatively quickly, I think it was less than 7 days, if I'm not mistaken, from the time Saban announces the retirement to hiring Kalen DeBoer. So he was at a really difficult spot. And then also too, I believe Ryan Grubb was his OC at Washington that originally agreed to come over with to Alabama with Kalen DeBoer, but then he ended up getting hired by the Seattle Seahawks. So, you can't. How do you say no to that? To that position, that job. So I'm definitely not criticizing Ryan Grubb in it for anything, but for DeBoer, it's just there was a lot going on in a very really tight window. So I do give him. I think he's the right guy for the job. I don't think Alabama has made some mistake or anything like that. He's the right guy for the job. Just gotta give him time. I know we Alabama fans like to make it seem as if Nick Saban won a national championship every year. He did not. He had some losses. He had some bad losses. And he had some close wins even as well. Like I can remember, I can't remember what year that was, 2016, 2015, 2016 maybe, but I vividly remember beating Arkansas, who that year was pretty darn bad by 1 point, and we needed a Landon Collins interception late in that fourth quarter to seal it. So it's not as if Saban from start to finish for his entire tenure just destroyed everybody or didn't have any games that he dropped or anything like that. So Kalen DeBoer is the right guy for the job. He's worked with what he's had, and it was a tough spot that he was in. So I think he'll be fine. I think he'll do a great job of recruiting, getting more guys in that kind of fit the mold of what he wants to do, and he'll be successful. I'm not concerned by that at all. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was the Ryan Williams flag. It was about as bad as it gets when it comes to flags and calls, things of that nature. And I know that because it was such an egregious call, a lot of people have talked about that, and oh man, that was the last ditch effort for Alabama to potentially try to win that game. The two things I'm here to tell you is, number one, that was an awful call. Awful call. That was terrible. But the second thing I'm here to tell you, Alabama wasn't winning that game. You count that touchdown, I believe 24-10 would have been the score at that point. Alabama was not winning that football game. It wasn't going to happen. They may have lost 24-10, 24-13, but that wasn't happening. The way that Oklahoma was pushing Alabama around, it seemed like Alabama didn't have enough guys on the football field defensively. That's how bad it looked. So that it would have had an impact on the game, but that was in no way going to change the outcome of that game, other than Alabama has 7 more points versus not. So that's it for me. If you're tuned in at this point, please give me a subscription. I would greatly appreciate it. And give the video a thumbs up. If you have a comment, feel free to drop it. And yeah, I'll respond to that. So peace.